Emily Dawson never expected a simple evening in her quiet Portland kitchen to shake the walls she had built around her heart. But that night moved faster than her thoughts could catch up. She was rinsing dishes, listening to the soft scratch of pencils behind her when her nephew Caleb suddenly stopped drawing. The boy was usually shy, always choosing silence over unnecessary words. So when he whispered that he had a wish, Emily turned, drying her hands quickly, sensing that something important was coming. He pushed a sketch across the table. His drawings were always full of emotion, and this one showed a woman holding someone's hand, though the other figure's face was unfinished, almost waiting for a story to fill it in. Emily didn't understand at first, but Caleb's voice trembled with truth as he said he wanted her to be happy again, that he had watched her pretend to be fine for far too long. The words hit her harder than she expected, not because they were harsh, but because they were honest in a way only a child could manage without fear. She had been hiding behind work, routine, and quiet nights for years, believing that moving on from heartbreak meant locking every good memory with it. After her fiancé Jordan left for a job in Canada, promising they would figure things out, but slowly drifting away, she convinced herself that she functioned better without hope. She told herself she was over it, that life felt steady, predictable, safe. But Caleb saw through the safety. He saw the way she paused when romantic movies came on, the way she kept one empty shelf in her closet like she was still waiting, the way she smiled with everyone, but never deeply. Emily wanted to deny it, to tell him she was fine, but looking into his worried eyes, she realized he wasn't asking for something childish. He was asking her to try again, to feel again, to let her life move instead of remaining frozen in the moment she lost something she once believed was forever. The kitchen felt too still, the air too heavy. And for a moment she wondered if she had forgotten how to want something for herself. Yet Caleb's sketch, that unfinished face beside the woman who looked exactly like her, made her understand how much he cared. It wasn't about finding someone to complete her. It was about letting herself be open again. So she nodded, her voice soft but steady, agreeing to try. She didn't promise love or a new relationship. She simply promised movement. She expected the world to stay calm after that. But life does not wait for the perfect moment. It moves fast once you decide to move with it. 2 days after she made that quiet promise, the past she had been trying to forget returned without warning. She was carrying groceries to her car when she heard someone say her name, not loudly, but in a tone she knew instantly, a tone that used to melt her fears. She turned and saw him, Jordan Adams, 3 years older, maybe a little thinner, but still the man whose smile once felt like a home. Her heart reacted before her thoughts did, pulsing with a mix of surprise, confusion, and something old she didn't want to name. Jordan had returned to Maine because his father's health had declined. And even from a distance, Emily could see that leaving hadn't made him stronger. His expression held regret, threaded with something gentler, as if he didn't expect to see her, but hoped all the same. They exchanged small words. "Hello, how have you been?" "I didn't expect to see you," and every sentence felt like a step toward a chapter she hadn't reread in years. It wasn't dramatic or loud. It was subtle, the kind of moment that shifts the ground beneath your feet without warning. Emily didn't let herself analyze it. She simply nodded politely and left quickly, groceries shaking in her hands as she placed them in the car. Her mind spun faster than the cold wind moving through the parking lot. She had finally told herself she would move forward, and now the man she once loved deeply had walked right back into her world as if the universe wanted her to confront every feeling she buried. That evening she didn't tell Caleb what happened, but she kept glancing at his drawing on the fridge, the woman holding the hand of someone who hadn't been drawn yet. She wondered if the universe had a strange sense of timing. She wondered if the artist of her life was sketching faster than she could understand. She wondered if saying yes to Caleb's wish had opened a door she wasn't ready for, or maybe the door had been waiting to open all along. Emily lay awake that night, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity tug at her. She knew life had just shifted. Something was beginning. Something she didn't choose, yet felt pulled toward. And though she didn't know where it would lead, she could no longer pretend she didn't feel the change in the air. The past had returned. The promise she made to Caleb echoed in her heart. And for the first time in years, Emily sensed that her quiet life was about to move at a pace that forced her to keep up. She didn't know it yet, but her story was no longer waiting. It had already started. Jordan's return to Portland felt like someone had picked up Emily's quiet life and shaken it without warning. And everything that had been settled for years suddenly shifted out of place when she saw him again at the small harbor cafe 2 days after their unexpected meeting. She told herself it was only polite to accept his invitation, nothing more. But her heart beat faster than her footsteps as she walked in. Jordan was already at a corner table, hands wrapped around a warm mug, eyes watching the ocean through the window like he was trying to untangle the past before she reached him. When he saw her, he stood, offering a small smile that carried both guilt and hope. Their greeting was simple, no long explanations, no dramatic scenes. Just two people who once meant everything to each other, trying to act like time had made them strangers. The air between them held a soft tension, the kind that made every casual word feel heavier. They talked about safe topics at first, moving quickly through updates about work, family, weather, and anything that didn't involve the real reason their hearts were pounding. Jordan told her his father had grown weaker and needed help, which brought him back to Maine sooner than expected. He spoke without complaining, but Emily could hear the worry beneath his calm voice. She told him about her counseling work at the local community center, how she kept busy with her sister's family, how the town had changed but still felt familiar. They filled the silence with small things, but under every word was the echo of years they hadn't discussed. The longer they talked, the clearer it became that time hadn't erased their connection. It had only made it harder to face. Emily noticed how Jordan still tilted his head when listening, how his smile was still gentle and slow, how he still had the quiet steadiness that once made her feel safe. And Jordan noticed the small changes in her tooth, the way she spoke with more confidence. The tiredness in her eyes she tried to hide, the way she looked at the door sometimes, almost as if she was afraid of her own heart. When their coffees were almost empty, Jordan finally pushed past the safe topics and spoke the words hovering between them. "I heard you stayed in Maine," he said softly, not accusing, not assuming, just observing. Emily nodded, trying to keep her voice even. This was home. "I didn't want to leave just to run from things." His expression tightened for a moment, but not with anger, more like regret pulling at the edges of his memory. He cleared his throat and said he admired that, but the unspoken truth between them was clear. She stayed, he left. And that choice had shaped everything. The conversation moved quickly, not because they rushed, but because the emotions were already there, waiting. Emily told him she had tried to rebuild after he left, tried to make her world work without him, tried to forget the future they once planned. Jordan admitted he thought distance would help them grow, but instead it created a space too wide to bridge. He said he didn't handle it well. He said he should have communicated more. He said he regretted the silence. Emily didn't cry, didn't break, didn't look away. She simply listened, her face calm, but her heart racing with old pain and new understanding. The truth was, she had wanted to hear these words for years. But now that she finally heard them, she wasn't sure what to do with them. When a sudden wave of customers crowded inside, filling the cafe with noise and cold wind, the moment between them cracked, giving them both a breath they didn't want but needed. They stood to leave, walking outside into the salty air where everything felt clearer, yet more complicated. Jordan hesitated before stepping away, his breath visible in the cold. "Emily, can we talk again?" His voice wasn't confident, like before, carried a careful hope, like he knew he didn't deserve the chance but wanted it anyway. Emily didn't answer right away. She felt her nephew's wish tug at her heart, reminding her she had promised to try to open up. to stop living like her story ended years ago. So she nodded and said yes, even though uncertainty curled around the edges of her courage. Jordan's relief showed instantly, but he kept it respectful, giving her space as he stepped back. They parted without touching, without promises, without anything dramatic. Yet the moment lingered long after they walked in opposite directions. As Emily headed home, the cold air didn't bother her as much as the rush of emotions swirling inside. Seeing Jordan had stirred feelings she thought were buried, feelings she wasn't sure she could trust or control. She kept thinking about the look on his face when he said he wanted to talk again. The honesty in his voice, the quiet longing that she pretended not to see. But she also remembered the years of silence. The late nights she spent wondering why he didn't fight for them. The unanswered texts that slowly faded until she forced herself to stop trying. Her heart felt pulled in two directions, one part wanting to protect itself, the other wanting to believe that people could change, that life could give second chances. When she reached home, Caleb's drawing on the fridge caught her eye again, the woman holding an unfinished hand. Suddenly, the sketch didn't feel like a simple childhood wish. It felt like a reminder that her story wasn't over, that someone might still fit into the empty space she had tried to ignore. Emily didn't know if Jordan was that person. She didn't know if reconnecting with him was wise. But she did know one thing. Life had clearly chosen to move, whether she was ready or not. And for the first time in a long time, she felt something warm beneath the fragile spark of curiosity. Maybe this wasn't about rewriting the past. Maybe it was about seeing what the future still held. Emily and Jordan's days following their first cafe meeting moved with a strange mix of tension and comfort. A rhythm that both excited and frightened Emily in ways she hadn't felt for years. They met often but carefully, keeping their encounters brief at first. Walking along the harbor, taking slow drives through town. Sharing coffee at familiar shops, always talking but never rushing into anything. Each meeting was layered with what they didn't say, the regrets, the what-ifs, and the unspoken longing that hung quietly between them. Emily noticed Jordan's small changes since he returned. The way he laughed more easily. The subtle lines on his forehead from stress he rarely admitted. The careful way he listened to her words as if measuring their weight. Jordan, in turn, noticed Emily's strength and warmth. The soft determination in her eyes, and the quiet vulnerability she still tried to hide. Their conversations often danced around safe topics. From Caleb's latest drawings to neighborhood news, yet under the surface, every word, every glance carried history. Emily sometimes caught herself remembering the evenings they had spent laughing over late dinners, sharing dreams about the future that never happened. Jordan would pause mid-sentence, staring at her with a thoughtful intensity. And she would feel the familiar tug in her chest, the part of her heart that had never fully let go. One afternoon, as the autumn wind stirred golden leaves across the boardwalk, they found themselves walking in silence, the harbor stretching endlessly on one side. Jordan stopped, his hands in his coat pockets, and spoke quietly. "Emily, I never stopped thinking about you. Even when I tried to convince myself it was easier to let go." The words landed gently but firmly, cutting through years of guarded emotions. Emily's breath caught, and for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to face the truth of what she felt. Fear mingled with desire, uncertainty mingled with hope. She admitted softly that she had been scared of being hurt again, scared that reopening her heart might bring disappointment instead of happiness. Jordan nodded, a slow, understanding gesture, and said he wasn't asking for immediate trust, only for a chance to show he had changed. Emily could see the sincerity in his eyes, and her own feelings, long restrained, began to stir again. Days turned into evenings spent sharing long walks along quiet streets, sharing small smiles and stories of life while cautiously exploring the bond that had never truly broken. They learned to communicate differently, more honestly, yet delicately. Navigating around old wounds without ignoring them, acknowledging past pain, but choosing to hope for something new. One evening, standing on the coastline as the sun dipped low behind a horizon streaked with pink and orange, Jordan finally allowed his voice to carry the weight of what he had held back. "I don't want to just remember us, Emily. I want to try again. I want to be someone who stays this time." Emily felt the wind whip against her cheeks, tugging at her hair, mirroring the rush of emotions in her chest. Her heart wanted to say yes immediately, but years of carefulness made her hesitate. "I'm afraid," she whispered, almost to herself. "Afraid of losing you again?" Jordan stepped closer, not touching, only close enough that their breaths mingled in the cold air. A physical reminder of their proximity, a promise that he would not let go easily this time. He didn't rush her, didn't demand a response, simply waited, giving her the space to decide whether she wanted to move forward or retreat. Her mind raced, recalling all the nights she had spent wondering what could have been. All the moments she had pretended she didn't care, and she realized that she could no longer live frozen in fear. But before words could fully form, her phone buzzed. An urgent call from Caleb's school, pulling her out of the moment and into immediate concern for her nephew. She felt torn, frustration tightening her chest, but she reminded herself that Caleb's safety mattered most in that instant. She hurried to the car, leaving Jordan standing alone on the pier, and promised herself silently that this conversation was far from over. At the school, Caleb had only had a minor accident, yet seeing him safe, smiling weakly as he waved at her, brought an overwhelming rush of relief. When she bent to hug him, he whispered, "Did you talk to him?" Emily's pulse quickened. "You knew I was meeting Jordan?" she asked, startled. Caleb shrugged, innocent yet wise beyond his years. "Small town. People talk. But you deserve to be happy." Emily's heart warmed, his words piercing through all lingering doubts. She realized that Caleb's wish, the gentle nudge that started all of this, wasn't just a childhood pliot, was a reminder she needed to let herself feel again, to take the risk of opening her heart to someone who mattered. That night, after tucking Caleb safely back with his parents, Emily returned home to the quiet of her own space, her mind spinning with memories, fears, and hope. She found Jordan waiting on her porch, the soft porch light casting a glow around him, making him look like the man she had once loved and still remembered. "You didn't answer earlier," he said, voice careful, steady, but full of longing. Emily stepped closer, heart pounding, recalling every small moment they had shared over the last days, the laughter, the silence, the quiet confessions of feeling. "I was afraid," she admitted, voice trembling with honesty. "But I'm tired of being afraid." Jordan's face softened instantly, the tension in his shoulders melting. "So, what now?" he asked, tentative but hopeful. Emily's thoughts flashed to Caleb's sketch, the woman and the unfinished man, and she realized she could finally fill that space in her life herself. "Now," she whispered, "we try again. Slowly, carefully, but truly." Jordan didn't touch her, only nodded, the smile on his face quiet but full, the kind that promises dedication and patience. Emily felt a calm she hadn't known in years, a sense of hope mingled with love, and understood that sometimes courage was simply saying yes to second chances, allowing her heart to remember what it wanted all along. And as they stood together under the porch light, the world around them quiet and steady, Emily knew that the journey ahead would be delicate, slow, and full of discovery, but it was a path she was finally ready to walk. For the first time in years, fear and hope coexisted in a balance that felt right. And Emily realized that life, love, and second chances often arrived in moments when one chose to act. When one chose to open the heart fully, letting the past guide but never control the future. The spark between them was quiet but undeniable, a gentle force pulling them forward. And Emily understood that Caleb's simple wish had set her life into motion, awakening feelings she thought had been lost and proving that love, patience, and courage could still bloom in the most unexpected moments. The days that followed felt like a delicate balancing act for Emily, a mix of normal life, family responsibilities, and the quiet resurgence of a connection she thought was long gone. Caleb's minor accident had reminded her just how precious life could be and how fragile moments of happiness were. And she carried that thought with her as she navigated her renewed interactions with Jordan. They continued meeting slowly, with caution, savoring each conversation, each shared glance, each small laugh that slipped past the walls they had built around themselves. Jordan proved patient, never pushing, always allowing her to set the pace. And Emily found herself gradually letting the old warmth resurface, like sunlight slowly creeping through a window that had long been shuttered. One afternoon, he invited her to take a walk along the cliffs overlooking the Atlantic. The wind strong and cold, yet somehow invigorating, and the sky painted in soft oranges and purples as the sun began to set. They spoke little at first, letting the rhythmic crash of waves fill the silence. Yet every moment between them carried the weight of years they had lost and the hope of time they might still have. Jordan finally broke the quiet, his voice low but steady. "Emily, I want to do this right. Not just for me, not just for us, but for you. I don't want you to feel afraid or rushed. I want us to build slowly, carefully, and honestly." Emily's chest tightened at his words, a mix of relief and longing swirling together. She realized that she had wanted this honesty more than anything else. The chance to feel safe while allowing her heart to open again. She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want that too." The honesty between them acted like a gentle tether, anchoring their emotions without overwhelming them, allowing each to breathe while still acknowledging the depth of what was unfolding. Days turned into evenings spent together, small but meaningful. And Emily noticed the way Jordan remembered tiny details about her life. How he spoke to her with a softness that reminded her why she had fallen in love with him in the first place. She remembered late nights filled with laughter, quiet mornings drinking coffee in companionable silence, and the reassurance of knowing someone truly understood her without needing explanations. Their bond deepened, but life continued, and Emily remained mindful of her nephew, her family, and her work, never letting the rush of renewed romance distract her from what mattered most. One evening, after a quiet dinner together at her apartment, Jordan reached for her hand, the first physical touch since they began reconnecting. It was slow, tentative, yet deliberate, as if asking permission without needing words. Emily felt a warmth spread through her, the kind that comes from knowing someone respects your pace, your choices, and your heart. "I've missed this," Jordan admitted softly, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart flutter. "I've missed you," she replied, and there was no hesitation in her words, only clarity and truth. Their moments together became a careful dance, balancing affection, understanding, and patience, with neither one rushing the other, yet both aware of the strong pull between them. Emily realized that she had not only regained the hope of love, but also learned the strength of trusting someone again, of allowing herself to be vulnerable while maintaining her sense of self. Caleb's wish, once so simple, now felt monumental. The catalyst that had reminded her to embrace life, risk happiness, and allow the heart to feel fully. She recalled his drawing, the unfinished figure beside the woman holding someone's hand. And now she understood the meaning behind it. Life was about completing the sketches we leave open, filling in spaces with people who truly matter, not rushing the lines but allowing them to form naturally. One chilly evening as winter approached, Emily and Jordan walked along the harbor under streetlights that glimmered against the gentle waves. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of salt and the distant sound of seagulls, creating a backdrop that felt almost cinematic. Jordan stopped, turning to face her, his expression serious yet tender. "Emily, I know the past can't be undone, but I want to be here now, for everything that comes next. Will you let me?" She studied his eyes, searching for any hint of doubt, any sign that he might falter, but found none. Instead, she saw the honesty, the patience, and the genuine love she had once trusted and now dared to trust again. Without hesitation, she reached out, taking his hands in hers. "Yes," she said, her voice steady, carrying the weight of every choice she had made since Caleb's wish, every moment she had allowed herself to feel, every step she had taken toward opening her heart again. Jordan smiled, relief and joy evident in his face, and for a long moment they simply stood there, hand in hand, letting the world move around them while they held this fragile, powerful connection. Emily felt the warmth of possibility, the certainty that while life was unpredictable, it could also offer second chances, moments of tenderness and love that endured when nurtured patiently. From that night onward, their story moved forward slowly but steadily, with walks along the harbor, quiet dinners, shared laughter, and conversations that explored dreams, hopes, and fears alike. Emily discovered that love after heartbreak was not a sudden flame, but a steady glow, and she felt grateful for every small moment that led her back to it. Caleb's wish had sparked more than hope. It had reminded her to live fully, to embrace love without fear, and to let herself be seen again. And as winter settled over Portland, Emily and Jordan continued their journey together, holding hands, sharing stories, and discovering a depth of connection that neither time nor distance could erase. In the quiet of her apartment, Emily often reflected on the remarkable shift that had taken place the way a child's simple, heartfelt wish had pushed her to open her heart, face her fears, and allow herself the chance to love again. She understood now that happiness was not about rushing or forcing, but about patience, trust, and the courage to say yes when life presented an opportunity. Every glance, every shared laugh, every soft word became a testament to their renewed bond. And Emily felt a quiet joy in knowing that she had finally allowed herself to step fully into the love she had once lost, now cherished more deeply for the lessons of the past. And though the future remained uncertain, she held Jordan's hand firmly, ready to face whatever came next together, grateful for the wish that had reminded her to choose love, hope, and the beauty of second chances.